All Speaker Johnson needs to do is bring the legislation to the floor that will pay TSA agents and reopen the parts of the Department of Homeland Security that have nothing to do with ICE and have nothing to do with Trump's extreme and violent mass deportation machine. House Republicans and Senate Republicans have consistently rejected paying TSA agents. Why? It's because they don't support getting ICE under control.
There's House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries blasting House Speaker Mike Johnson for not bringing the TSA funding legislation to a vote, doing it in piecemeal. The Senate is set to take a procedural vote today on getting the Department of Homeland Security funded. The vote expected to fail for a fifth time since the partial shutdown began. White House Board Czar Tom Homan meeting with centrist Democrats yesterday without Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer in hopes of reaching a deal. More than a third of TSA agents have already called out at 3 major U.S. airports in a single day. Transportation Secretary Sean Duffy telling me that last Sunday, already 300 agents have already quit. And Senator Mark Wayne Mullen is moving a step closer to becoming the next Homeland Security Secretary after a Senate committee narrowly advanced his nomination yesterday. Joining us now is former Trump official and podcast host Katie Miller. Katie, great to see you. Give us your reaction to this. They want to do open certain parts of the department piecemeal, but they won't agree to open the entire Department of Homeland Security. I'm talking about the Democrats, Katie.
It's been 35 days of this partial government shutdown. It's complete malpractice for Democrats not to do their job because they suffer from such severe Trump derangement syndrome. Keep in mind, this isn't just TSA agents going without pay. This is Secret Service. This is customs officers. This is people at our ports of entry, ensuring that we have free and fair flow and trade of goods. This is ensuring that drugs aren't coming in through our open borders. You know, Maria, this isn't just our TSA agents that everyone is seeing and suffering from at the hands of Democrats. Yeah. It's unfortunate to see that Democrats are just walking off the job when in reality President Trump campaigned on and 77 million people voted for an agenda that included number 1 and number 2 of President Trump's platform points that was closing our border and mass deportations. That was written. It was clear for the American people. Yet this is just another stop on the Democrats' halting of every single part of President Trump's agenda to hopefully win another election that they're floundering at, because the reality is they don't have a platform. They don't have policies. All they have is this crazy Trump derangement syndrome that's been going on now, Maria, for over 10, 12 years.
Yeah, you know, David, you would have thought that when you see this kind of mess at the airports that you know, people, citizens are getting impacted by this, that maybe somebody would have said, okay, you know what, let's just fund it and have this fight later.
Well, that's the immediate. But then you start thinking about the larger part of, one of the larger parts of DHS, which is the cybersecurity part of this. And that at a time when there is no way that Iran would defeat the United States militarily, not going to happen. Cybersecurity-wise, could they have an attack on our grid? Could they do something? And that is where, I mean, TSA affects our daily lives, but that's a big one.
Well, House Homeland Security is going to be having a hearing on this next Wednesday, by the way, and there are going to be officials from CISA and from TSA and from the Coast Guard because of the national security threat that we now have because of this partial shutdown, Maria.
And Katie, you say, you know, they tried to stop Trump. Nobody tried to stop Trump more than that cabal in Washington. Yesterday, we learned former FBI Director Jim Comey has been subpoenaed in the Justice Department's Russiagate investigation. Your reaction?
It's good to see James Comey being held accountable. It's good to see watching him be forced to testify, as we all had to in those intervening years. I remember my door being knocked by the FBI and by the U.S. Marshals for these countless investigations into Donald J. Trump. From the minute he walked into the Oval Office, the left was determined to stop him. It was Russia collusion, Russia hoax. It was impeachments. You see it. The Democrats, again, they don't have a policy platform. They don't have anything because they know their policies are so deeply unpopular, whether that be transgenderism or wokeism. That's all the Democrats have left, is trying to retain the hold they have on the cult of the left, to try to tell women that they shouldn't be having children, to try to tell women that we wouldn't be able to vote in elections if we had voter ID laws.
And
it is ludicrous.
And I remember for years having Devin Nunes on this program, on Sunday Morning Futures on Fox News, telling us that Jim Comey and John Brennan and others, James Clapper, were behind this made-up story to try to attach Donald Trump to some Russia fantasy of collusion. All right, let's talk about this. Today marks day 4 of the Senate's marathon debate on the Save America Act, Katie. Republican governors, attorneys general throwing their support behind the president's push to require proof of citizenship for voting. With bills now landing on governors' desks in Florida, South Dakota, and Utah. Letters from the America First Policy Institute warning current voter registration systems rely on an honor system and fail to properly verify who is actually casting ballots in federal elections. And we know that a driver's license is not enough in terms of proof of citizenship, since they've been giving them out like candy in certain states.
The reality is there's mass amounts of cheating in our elections. Just because there's an engineered lack of data does not mean there isn't data to the contrary. It is not crazy, nor is it anything to say that only Americans should be able to vote in American elections. There's a new CBS YouGov poll out this morning that says 80% of Americans support this policy, 80% of Black Americans, 77% of Hispanic Americans. Yet why is it that Congress seems so intractable to wanting to pass such a popular policy? Yeah. Is it because they're for illegal aliens? We see that from Democrats refusing to stand with President Trump at the State of the Union, that they'd rather support illegal aliens than the American people. And as you've said, they've been passing out driver's licenses to the broad swath of the population. That's over 50 million foreigners in our country. Over 20 million came in under Joe Biden's watch. Yeah. It's time to once again go back to removing those with final orders of removal, those criminals here in the country. It shouldn't, again, Maria, be crazy to say that we want to pass the SAVE Act that includes removing non-citizens from the voter rolls. That's part of the bill. Yeah, why are Democrats so opposed to that?
You know, you would have thought, Cheryl, that putting the Democrats on the spot as far as explaining why they would not want the SAVE Act would be enough to get people to say, well, you know what, I can't explain this, but it's not happening.
Let me explain it with numbers, guys.
Please do.
In 2021, New York City tried to give 800,000 illegals the right to vote. 16 towns in Maryland allowed non-citizens to vote. 3 municipalities in Vermont allow it too. This is what the Democrats want. Yeah. This is the plan. This is why they're opposed to the SAVE Act.
And Katie, Simple. You've got right now 19 states plus Washington, D.C. issue licenses regardless of legal status. A minority of the country, but they're doing it.
Yeah, they're saying it's sexism if I needed to go get a new ID in order to vote, right? Yeah. But you need an ID to have a baby, Maria. Right. I'm nearly 7 months pregnant, and I know I need an ID to go prove that I can have a baby in this country. So why is it that it's so difficult for me to present an ID to go vote? It isn't. It's common sense, and you should be able to prove your citizenship in order to partake in our democracy. If not, what are we doing here? It's frankly insanity.
Well, we are all waiting for the latest, freshest, newest Miller to enter the world. And of course, we are praying for the precious Miller baby to come. We will see you soon, Katie. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Maria.
All right, Katie Miller joining us.